Have you ever regretted anything? Now, you may say, I live life with no regrets. But what if I told you that regret can actually be a very powerful emotion that can help you? Consider that in a morning in April of 1888, a man picks up the newspaper and he reads his own obituary. Now, anybody would be shocked at this, but this individual was Alfred Nobel. And there had been a blunder that had happened. That is, the newspaper had actually mixed up him with his brother who had actually passed away. And so they actually wrote an obituary about the living Alfred Nobel, who was much more famous than his brother. And in this obituary, the headline read that the merchant of death has died. You see, Alfred Nobel was somebody who was a chemist and he had made his money through TNT or dynamite. When we are faced with regret, we have the option or the opportunity to either be paralyzed by that regret or actually channel it in a productive manner. Alfred Nobel chose to channel this regret in a productive manner. So what did he do? He then embarked on donating 94% of his income, of his wealth that he had generated over his lifetime, to philanthropic causes, essentially which established what we now call the Nobel Prize, a series of prizes that are given from peace to medicine to different fields of sciences and even economics today. This happened all because Alfred Nobel was able to see during his lifetime how he would be remembered after he dies. And he was able to get a glimpse into life after death, how we will be remembered, which often many people are not able to think about. But what's important about this is each and every one of us has the ability to stop, to pause, and to think about how will my obituary be written after I'm gone, and then adjust our behavior in order to make the most appropriate decisions. So what's the solution when you are faced with regret? How do you keep yourself from being crippled by it and paralyzed and actually focus on channeling it the right way? One way to do this is to, for example, make things that have gone wrong right. For example, in the case of Nobel, he established the Nobel Prize. Similarly, if there's something that you can do to make a wrong right, that's something that you may want to explore. Number one. Number two is reframing what happened. We can learn from the example of Sheryl Sandberg, the second in charge at Facebook, COO. When she lost her husband, then she asked her psychologist friend, Dr. Adam Grant, what can I do in this situation to help me cope with this? And he came forward and he said, look, you have to reframe this and I want you to be grateful. She said, grateful for losing my husband? I said, no, grateful for the time that you had to spend with him. To reframe that actually changed the whole dynamics, and then one did not have that regret of, for example, going on vacation and losing her husband. That's what happened in the case of Sheryl Sandberg. Or, for example, Dr. Viktor Frankl, the author of Man's Search for Meaning, when he had a client who came into his office and said, hey, look, Dr. Frankl, I can't deal with the fact that I've lost my wife. It's bothering me. It's hurting me. I'm depressed. I'm sad. I can't deal with it. Dr. Frankl said, well, what would happen if the tables were turned? He said, what do you mean? He said, what if you had died and she was living? What would be the result of that? I said, well, she would suffer. The same way that you're suffering? I said, yes. He said, well, can you imagine that by letting her die first, you have saved her from the suffering that you are now going through? Similarly, you and I can reframe the regret that we may have and actually try to look at the silver lining. You may say, I regret, for example, spending a lot of money on college, whereas you may realize that it opened your mind to something, or you met a good friend or a loved one in that journey. These are important things to help you reconsider. So whenever you face regret, don't just discard and say, I live my life with no regret. Maybe explore that regret and see how you can channel that and turn it into productive regret that can help you make better decisions in your life. All the best to you.